You're listening to BMitch and Finlay, and it's time for us to get on the phone lines, get down to Florida, and talk to our friend J.C. Allen. J.C. Allen covers the Bucs for SI Now and Bucs Game Day, vice president of Pro Football Writers of America in Tampa. J.C., what's up, dude? Thank you for making time for us.
Yeah, absolutely. What's going on, guys? How we doing?
Doing well, man.
We're getting fired up for this matchup, dude. You know, week one feels like it was 5 years ago.
It does.
I know.
What's the vibe in Tampa about getting Washington in the first round?
Yeah, it's funny. I think last time I was on the show, I said, it's a little too early for favorites, but we'll see each other down the road. And hey, here we are. Two good seasons by both of these teams. I think the vibe here is if you're going to get anyone, and not to take the Commanders lightly at all, but you wanted the Commanders or the Packers. We wanted that 3 seed, and there's a lot of optimism around Tampa Bay right now with Bucs fans, and their thoughts that hey, this could be a team that it's going to be a hard fought game, but one that they can win and potentially maybe host another game here in Raymond James Stadium. Make no bones about it. When you look at this Commanders team, they are good. They're good on both sides of the ball, and they're going to have a ton of problems for the Buccaneers on Sunday.
When you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the first game to now, are they the same team, a much better team, or a team that's maybe a little less because of some of their players being injured?
Yeah, definitely injuries have hurt them, especially in the secondary with Antoine Winfield Jr., Jordan Whitehead, Jamal Dean, just depth that's been banged up. But I think they're a better team overall than what they were at the beginning of the year. They have vastly improved their running game, one of the best in the league. Obviously, they don't have Chris Godwin, who, 8 last time, 8 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown. They got other guys step up, and Joe McMillan and Bucky Irving obviously breaking through as one of the best young running backs in the NFL. So there's definitely some differences, I feel like, with both of these teams. Obviously, Jaden Daniels making his first career start to getting talked about in the MVP conversation a little bit there. So it's definitely different for both of these teams. I would say the Bucs are probably more assured of who they are as a team.
Mm-hmm.
They're more resilient as a team, and they definitely know what their identity is as a football team, and that matters, especially going into the playoffs.
Let's talk defensively for Tampa. They're quite good against the run and give up a lot in the pass game. Sometimes the numbers, though, can be deceiving. What would you say for Tampa, kind of strengths versus weaknesses defensively?
Yeah, I think it's funny because it's almost the exact opposite, right? Commanders number 3 against the run, Buccaneers number 29, and then you look at the passing against the pass against the run, the Bucs are 4th and the Commanders are 29. So it's kind of a tale, but I think again, like you mentioned, it doesn't tell the whole thing, because I feel like there's some weaknesses the Bucs can exploit in the Commanders secondary. And I feel like there's some weaknesses that the Commanders can exploit with the Buccaneers and their defense. Passes over the middle of the field, quick, open space passes and stuff like that to get maybe the backs involved. Bucs have struggled in tackling, I think, has probably been their biggest issue. But when you look at both, like I said, both of these teams are evenly matched. There's both some things on both sides where you look at and you're like, okay. If they can do X, Y, Z, then they can exploit this, and like same thing for the other team. So it's the Bucs defense. They've been banged up though. Lack of pressures hurt them. They get consistent pressure, but turning it into sacks and consistent pressure throughout a duration of a game has been an issue as well. They'll have these spurts where all of a sudden they'll go 3 drives with 3 and out, and then again like the Saints game, they only touched the ball on offense 3 times in the first half. Pressure's not getting there, not able to do its job. Mental mistakes, tackling, penalties. I think those are the big concern points for the Buccaneers is defending the middle of the field, hoping that they can get some of the injured guys back. So the Commanders can't just take shots with Terry and Zach and kind of exploit some of those matchups. And they've got to get after Jaden Daniels and contain. That's going to be one of my keys is pressure and contain. You can't let this guy beat you, but you got to get after him too.
Who? Any Whitfield, is he going to be able to play? Winfield, I mean, is he going to be able to play?
Well, not sure. Winfield and Jamel Dean, they're starting cornerback, and obviously a starting, all-pro safety. Both of those guys are banged up. We're not sure. We spoke with Todd yesterday. He said, those guys are in play. The only person that's banged up that is not in play is going to be Jordan Whitehead, who's probably out for the rest of the season.
Whoa. How big of a loss is it if Winfield can't go?
Huge. He hasn't been himself after getting injured in the first game of the season against the Commanders. The last play of the game, he got injured, had to miss time several weeks, and then he's missed a couple weeks now with a knee injury. He hasn't really been able to kind of get going and be the guy he was last year. But still, his leadership, his playmaking ability, just his play in general. He's someone that teams have to fear and have to know where he's at on the field because of everything he can do, right? He's not just a free safety on the back end, making plays and defending the back half of the field. He's coming in on blitz. He's going into the slot. He's doing everything that a DB, that the great DBs do, especially second, safeties and stuff like that. So it would be a huge loss if he can't play, and it will open some things up and some shots up for the Commanders to take, when they decide that they want to air it out.
Have you heard any of the guys discussing Jaden Daniels and his growth from the first game to now?
Well, Rashad went to college with him, Rashad White, at Arizona. So, he's been talking about how proud he is of his guy and stuff like that, for what he's doing. But he's the enemy. There's love before, there's love after, but during there will be no love for Jaden Daniels. But yeah, I mean, we haven't. We'll get to talk to Baker tomorrow and open locker room and get to some of these guys and get their thoughts on the season that they've had. And I'm sure they'll shower praise on him, much deservedly so. Doing what he's been able to do as a rookie quarterback has been remarkable and awesome to watch, whether it's through the air or with his legs or his late game heroics. It's been. I mean, you look at that first game too. They had some more time on the clock. Who knows what would have happened? They start coming alive late, and I think that's where it started with him coming alive late and winning some games. But we'll get a lot of that the next couple of days. But no one's overlooking this team. No one's overlooking this quarterback just because he's a rookie. They're a talented team. He's a talented quarterback, and they're going to provide tons of mismatches, opportunities, and things that the Bucs are going to have to plan for.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking with JC Allen here about the Commanders-Buccaneers matchup Sunday night football. Were you surprised at all that this one got tagged for Sunday Night Football for kind of the biggest audience?
Yeah, I mean, that is interesting, especially given the markets, right? Washington's a pretty big market. Tampa's a pretty big market in its own right, but it's not one of these bigger markets. I was just glad it wasn't Monday or wasn't Saturday night games. No one likes, if you're in the media, no one likes primetime games. But Bucs have had some issues in primetime all season. Now I get it. I put this out on my Twitter X page, whatever we're calling it. And I was like, are you guys nervous about the primetime? It's like every game's a primetime. It's the playoffs, and that's true. But specifically under the lights, the Bucs have struggled this season. So it's going to be a big test for them. Definitely was a little surprised it was chosen for the Sunday night game, but they were also the Sunday night game last year against the Eagles. That went pretty well for them. So hopefully, they can continue trending in that direction.
JC, you mentioned that in the first game, if it was some more time on the clock, it could have been different because you saw them starting to make their move late. Did the players notice that as well?
You could definitely, see there's a little bit of life coming. Jaden, you're talking about like a quarter and 2 minutes. That last game, there was some life coming along. Unfortunately, the Bucs were just, a little bit too strong, more cohesive. Guys who have been there, done that. But it's a thing that I was talking to some of the guys in the locker room, and after the game, and kind of going over scenarios and what and. Jaden Daniels, we talked about Jaden Daniels, but he's been, what he did last week against the Falcons, what he did this week against the Cowboys. He's those late game heroics, and they're aware of that. And, some of the guys on defense are just, we just got to do our job pretty much, make sure we're fundamentally sound. Our technique is good. We're tackling and making sure that he's not beating us with his legs and not, beating us extending time in the pocket to let guys get open.
Yeah.
Well, dude, JC, one thing that doesn't track, because if you look at Tampa, I feel like the performances have been pretty consistent most of the season. You drop a pair of losses to Atlanta, but division games are always funky. The one thing that really stands out to me is how bad they played against Dallas 3 weeks ago. And that was a Sunday nighter. Granted, it was on the road. But what happened in that game that Dallas exploited? Like, what happened in that game?
Yeah, again, primetime game. That's one of those things where they've struggled all year. But just they didn't come out fast, and turnovers, lack of execution, turnovers coming out slow. The Bucs finally, for the first time this past weekend, beating the Saints was their first time they've beaten an opponent which has scored first on them all season. Other than that, when an opponent scores first, they've had difficulties, getting back into the game. Of course, you look at some of those losses you're talking about, the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Ravens, the Falcons twice, and a surprising Denver Broncos team that blew them out in week 3. But, it was just a combination of multiple things. You can't turn the ball over. They're marching down the field looking to win. All they need is a field goal. They fumbled the ball there at the end, and, that was all she wrote. But, Baker had an interception. Rashad White had a fumble. There was another fumble by Payne Durham. Just kind of penalties, drive-killing things like that, too. Like, that's been a big thing. When you look at this past week, they had 9 penalties for 90 yards. Go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry. Was that the game with Deron Bland forced that fumble that was just nuts?
Yeah. At the end of the game.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, we ripped it out of the guy going down, but they're marching their way down. All they need is a field goal. They need about 40 yards to get in field goal range, and again, they just started off slow. Penalties and turnovers, like those are the big things that have hurt the Bucs all season. The thing down here to say is Bucs are beating the Bucs. And that's usually what happens. Like again, on Sunday, 9 penalties, 90 yards. At one drive, they had 3 penalties, 2 false starts, and a holding call. Set you back real quick, and that's been the Achilles heel for the Bucs most of the season. When you look at some of these other games that they had that they lost, close game against the Chiefs and against the 49ers, Bucs beating the Bucs has been kind of when they lose these games has been the mantra. But they've been able to overcome a lot of that in recent weeks. Just weren't able to overcome it against the Cowboys 2 weeks ago.
In that first game, Baker was very, very elusive. They got to him, but they couldn't get him down. Has he played like that the rest of the year? Or was that just that game where he was just invincible to the Commanders?
Baker's fun to watch because, sometimes you'll get the Baker Mayfield that will scramble around and pick up extra yards, and he'll go for 68 yards like he did on Sunday against the Saints, career high rushing yards for the season. Sometimes we'll get the Baker who tries to live in chaos and do this, and he'll get himself sacked. I think he's been sacked like 40 times this year, and only like 15 of them have been on the offensive line.
Wow.
So, a lot of it, he tries to create in chaos, and sometimes it works out well, and he can scramble on the move. That play to Jalen McMillan to give them the lead. I'm sure you guys have seen it. Just the ball on a rope, scrambles, moves outside of the pocket, buys himself time, and just an absolute dime of a throw and a beautiful catch by McMillan there to put them up ahead. Sometimes we get that Baker. Sometimes we get the Baker who will try to spin around and then he just gets sacked by a guy behind him. So he's going to scramble. He's going to do whatever he can. That gets the team fired up. It gets them juiced up, knowing that, he's going to take a big hit to pick up a first down. The team will have his back. There was a situation where he scrambled. He kind of got hit, a little bit questionable. It wasn't called or anything like that, but offensive line was up in people's faces right away. And, that gets the offense going. That gets the defense going. When the defense is saying, hey, Baker's out here putting his body on the line, trying to pick up a first down, we got to match that intensity. What's our excuse? So Baker is the identity of this football team. Strong, hardworking, lunch pail, do what it takes. put your body on the line. We call him an offensive lineman in a quarterback's body down here. But, and that's kind of been resilient. That's been the team's identity this season. They don't give up. They're resilient. They bounce back. And it's been awesome to watch. He's a down-to-earth quarterback that these guys all can appreciate. And, especially coming off having a megastar like Tom Brady, for him to be like, hey, let's go to the bar and watch the Lions-Vikings game to see what the outcome is. Those are the cool things about Baker Mayfield that really have the team buying all in on him and together as a unit.
That is cool. And he seems like that he seems like the kind of dude you really like if he's on your team, and he might annoy the hell out of you if he's on another team.
Yeah.
And Baker's been fantastic. I'm not trying to knock him at all. He's third in the NFL in yards passing, second in the NFL in touchdowns, but he does lead the NFL in interceptions. How much of the picks have been a volume thing versus sometimes he just tries to force it? How can you expect him to protect the football Sunday night?
Yeah, I'd say probably half and half. I mean, you've got some tip balls in there, some just defenders making really good reads on it. And, you got to give the credit to them sometimes. And some have just been like, Bake, what are you doing? You can't do that. He also has had a lot of fumbles this season. Obviously, he's dealing with a rookie center too, so you kind of give some leeway there. But, yeah, turnovers are going to be critical. You cannot win the ball game if you turn the ball over. That's going to be something that's going to be preached all week. Been preached all season, but making the smart reads, making the smart throws, throwing it away, throwing it in the dirt if you need to, whatever's not going to turn the ball over is how you need to play. And, Baker had an interception on Sunday. It's not like he was clean then. He played a good, strong game, but again, interception, and they get points off the pick. And that's something that, again, the Baker, when he's hot, he's hot. When he's not, you're worried about the next throw. But he's also done a great job at bouncing back from some of these too. Now, some of them cost him the game. Some of them he's overcome and they've won the game. So, ball security, whether that's Baker Mayfield at quarterback, whether it's, on the snap, on the throw, and everybody else is going to touch the ball. Ball security is going to be a heavy emphasis this week. You cannot win these games if you're committing 9 penalties for 100 yards and turning the ball over once or twice. It's just not gonna go your way.
I can't wait for this matchup. Yeah. It's fascinating because the Bucs are, an established team. Hell, they're only 4 years removed from that Super Bowl. You probably got a bunch of guys on this team that still have a Super Bowl ring, but they've kind of had to rebuild it on the fly. Whereas Washington is ahead of schedule, coming down there with a rookie quarterback that's got the world on a string. There's just so many intriguing storylines. JC, I know people can follow you at JC Allen NFL, but if they want to check out your podcast or the rest of your content this week, especially, where should they look?
Yeah, it's going to be it's an awesome week. I think this is going to be an awesome game between two really well-matched teams who have both done some really good things this season. Commanders maybe not where a lot of people expected them to be with a rookie quarterback and after a turnaround. And, Commanders bucking the trend. They went out and signed a bunch of veterans and made a bunch of off-season moves. And, sometimes it doesn't pay off for teams. And it's paid off for the Commanders in a big way. While the Bucs, they've had to get extremely younger. The second youngest team in the league behind the Packers after being the oldest when Tom Brady was here 2 years ago. They've had to endure Tom Brady's dead cap hit and dead cap hits from other people like Ryan Jensen, who retired. And then this offseason, they had to re-sign all their own players. So they really haven't been able to make many splashes in free agency outside of their own guys. And, they've had to rely on the draft. So this is it's going to be a fun matchup between these two teams. I'm excited for it, excited for Sunday Night Football after enjoying a full slate of weekend football. But if you guys want to find me, again, on X, you can find me there. Bucs Game Day, Sports Illustrated. You guys can find all of our work there. I'll be having some previews out there on what to look for players to watch, matchup history, and then on my podcast, Pirate Parlay, that will be on Wednesday and Friday. We'll go behind enemy lines. We'll have one of you guys that cover the Commanders come on, talk about that to the Bucs fans to kind of let them know what they're expecting, and we'll do like a preview show there too. So I'll be everywhere. Anywhere you can find me. DMs are always open. If you guys have any questions about the Bucs, feel free to reach out. But as always, appreciate doing this. And hey, maybe we'll be doing this again next year. Who knows?
Oh yeah. All right, JC.
Yeah, man. JC, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good one, guys.
We got quite a matchup coming up, B.
Yes,
I'm
we
fired
do.
up for it, dude.